years ago, I bought a notebook and I bought a fountain pen, and I started to write a fairy story for adults. And now it's 11 years later, and suddenly that fairy story, as reimagined by Matthew Vaughn and Jane Goldman, is turned into a real movie.
I remember reading it and loving it. I saw the film immediately, which was always a good sign if you're going to try and make a film out of it. And it was back then, I was telling people I've found the book where I could make a Princess Bride meets Midnight Run movie, which I think everyone thought I was insane. I read the graphic novel first before the novel, so Charles definitely got my, his drawings got my interest. But you know, we used them as inspiration, but we weren't, should we say, faithfully following them.
Matthew was a producer first, so he learned the hard way sometimes how hard it is to get a movie made. But as a director, he did the movie called Layer Cake, which was very well received, critically well received, and it's really a fresh view on the gangster genre, if you would. And what Matthew brings is a very firm grounding in the independent film world. And the challenge in making this movie for him was how to translate that, I'll call it smaller aesthetic, to a much larger canvas, and yet hold on to the things that I think make him such a unique and vibrant filmmaker.
Are you trying to break my leg again?
I wanted to make it feel as realistic as possible. I said to people, yes, there's magic in this world, but magic in this world is like paying a bill in our world. You know, it's just a thing that happens every day. It's matter of fact. It's nothing to get excited about. The art department, I based everything on, whether it was architecture or designs, on modern things that people would know, and then dress them in a way that they didn't look too out of place. Like the carriage was based on a Hummer car.
We're now in the half-constructed witch's lair, which is a small part of a giant palace that the witches live in. And it was based initially from Matthew Vaughn's first ideas on the mirrored hallway in Versailles.
As usual, great ideas come from dark places, literally in this case, where it was the 11th hour and no concept came up. And I was looking at a picture of Versailles, and I remembered the Hall of Mirrors. And I thought, okay, I want you to recreate the Hall of Mirrors, but make it where it's white, I want it black, where it's gold, I want it silver.
On the wall side, the Victorian side, it should look a very classical period film, a very sort of chocolate box look almost at this little sleepy town where Tristan lives, just to establish this very mellow, unexciting life that he has.
I'm free.
And then you knew that when you moved into Stormhold, either landscape-wise or architecturally, or just the atmosphere, had to be somewhere that he would just have never imagined that he could go.
I don't deal with time oysters.
I remember I was in Los Angeles about a year and a half ago, having dinner with my agent, and Matthew walked in, who knew my agent, and he walked in holding a copy of the novel Stardust that he was thinking about adapting. And I remember that very vividly. And then about a year later, there was a script circulating, and I was asked to audition. So,
164, take 4, A and B cameras.
Tristan had to be an unknown in my eyes, because he really, for me, it's important that when you meet him as a sort of a nerdy little kid, you have no idea what he's going to end up at the end. And if you put an Orlando Bloom and put a pair of glasses and give him a geeky haircut, you know where it's going to end up.
By having Michelle Pfeiffer and Robert De Niro and Claire Danes in the movie, it certainly helped persuade the studio to allow a relative unknown to be the lead of the picture.
And he's a fabulous actor. I mean, he came in, did a great reading. I just knew. As soon as he read it for the first time, I was like, that's my guy. Well, he looks heroic, and he looks like a damn good nerd. So he's pulled both off.
Turn that off, mate. Look at my hair.
Expensive. Yeah. Love it. It's just a little sort of like.
Yeah.
You know, to show the audience that you've learned something. You can, hey, you get back there.
Not prepared.
Yeah. And if you want to give them a little nip, you're allowed to.
Send you back a bit further, probably, so we just get a little bit of spread by the wall. You just duck that one. The old boy just...
I remember two initial creative sparks for Stardust. The village of Wall, the idea that you have a little village which is next to Fairy, was half of the inspiration. And that was about 1988 on holiday. And it was my first holiday. My wife and I had left the children behind, and we'd gone for a week driving through Ireland. And somewhere in Cork, I drove past a field with a beautiful wall, and there was a hole in the wall. And you could just sort of see this wonderful little foresty thing beyond it. And I looked and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if just a wall and just a hole in the wall away is fairyland, is everything you've ever dreamed of. And that was the start. And then it was 1992, and I was in Tucson, Arizona, out in the desert.
Camera. Action.
I've never had champagne before.
Yeah, me neither.
In England, when I was growing up, if you saw a falling star, it was just a sort of streak of light. And you go, oh, falling star. And it would just streak across the sky. Out in the desert with this amazing dark blue, indigo-colored velvet sky, I watched a star fall. I watched a meteorite. And it was like getting to watch a star fall and follow its progress, and this twinkling, diamond-like thing blazing as it fell. And I stood there and I watched it fall, and I thought, you could go and find that.
Oh, Tristan, a shooting star. Oh, beautiful.
Suddenly it came together with the whole idea of wall. I thought, you know, if it fell on the wrong side of the wall, it wouldn't be a meteorite. It wouldn't be a lump of meteoric rock. It would be a girl. And I had the story.
The whole film, I think, is rich with sort of ideas about where you could go in the worlds that Neil Gaiman has, you know, sort of introduced in the script. And it very much needed to have the visual effects element to it. A lot of magic was introduced in the script, a lot of ideas that portrayed landscapes. They were all new visions that didn't exist in the real world, and so therefore needed augmenting the visual effects. The schedule is normally worked out so that we get a little bit of time with the main unit. But when we're not with the main unit, a lot of it is planning all the other shots that we need to do. We may even have our own unit that goes off to shoot plates. So we would fly off in a helicopter and gather plates for sequences that the main unit didn't need to touch.
What you see here is basically set the wall. Behind this, the trees that we zoom over, is a helicopter move from a completely different location, and everything else behind the tree line is computer generated.
And it was really a geography shot that was designed, in other words, to tell the audience where they were having the picnic and how many miles away the king's castle was.
So this is a complete CG version of the Stormwell Castle with projector mappings in the background, and then into the scene, which is obviously played from a hanging rig on location.
He's on his way, Father.
Oh. Then we shall wait.
O'Toole, a legend. It came like, who would you want to play the king? And I was like, I don't know, Peter O'Toole. And to my amazement, he said yes. I mean, it was casting this movie was pretty phenomenal. How many actors just said yes normally, but I think also once you get De Niro, you know, it's like a good beacon for everybody else to come on board.
And roll sound.
Quiet, please.
Sounds great. Turn over.
Turning.
100, take 5.
Oh, Mother, I'm so sorry. Are you all right?
No, I'm not, and I'm not your mother, so get off me.
You're not my mother.
Do I look like I'm your mother?
No.
Yvain was the hardest. It was the only character, when I read it, I had no idea who I wanted to play the part. Every other part, I knew what I was looking for, and Yvain, we tested so many people, and Claire did a great test, and the other thing, I'd already cast Charlie, which made life easier, because then I had to see who had the chemistry, and the two of them hit it off immediately. So I think it was the chemistry I was looking for there, which that was probably the only reality I could search for, because it was hard to tell someone that, you're playing a star.
Claire, can we just try, you've got a bubbling candle with more enthusiasm and excitement, like...
I really scared Matthew, the director, when we first started rehearsing, because we were kind of throwing ideas around, and he said, well, how do you think you might want to play her as a star specifically? And I said, well, I don't know, I think occasionally just, for emphasis, I might just incorporate some jazz hands, just like a little flourish here or there. I mean, not too much, but just a little indication of her being a star. And he got really nervous, his face dropped, and he just got panicked, and yeah. And then I had to reassure him that I was kidding.
Yeah, this is where it fell. And over there is where it landed. And right here, this is where it got hit by a magical flying moron.
You're the star. You're the star? Really?
Oh, wow. One of the difficult things was to actually create something that she wears when she falls to Earth that doesn't look like spacey and doesn't look earthly. I looked at the sky and how a star forms, and I started off on this track of sort of making a dress a bit like this, which was sort of twisting around her body, which works on paper but not necessarily on the body. So I thought it would be great if what she was wearing was almost like a liquid. So we used a very simple natural fabric and had it cut in a way that just fell to the ground.
The scale of the movie is very large. We went to a lot of very exciting real places. So we were in Iceland, and Iceland looks like no other place I've ever seen. So right away you're like, where am I? We were in Scotland, we were in Wales, we were all over England. We were able to utilize very different landscapes. We just had 31-mile-an-hour gusts, going to 40, but Matthew contends it's only 4 miles an hour. And it's an American-English translation thing, but I'm not sure.
Basically, I wanted each location to be good enough that you just took a snapshot of it and it's a postcard. If I had my way, I would have shot the whole film in Iceland, but we couldn't because we can't get horses. You're not allowed to bring livestock into the country, so we couldn't make this film with no horses. We needed horses. We just picked, harsh but beautiful locations. Well, it's quite fun when you go all off together. It's like going on an event, literally on your own adventure, and it becomes, I think, a good team spirit evolves. Sometimes when you're on stage, it just becomes very clinical and it doesn't keep you on your toes as much.
It's a lovely day for a bath.
But it's a bugger when the weather changes. For Lamia, I really wanted someone that I thought was the epitome of beauty. So you had De Niro, I wanted the tough guy, and I wanted someone that around the world was known for being beautiful, so that when they fall apart in front of the camera, it's more interesting, and you can really believe that this character is going to do anything she can to get her looks back. And Michelle's obviously one of the most beautiful women in the world, and also a fabulous actress.
Do you have any idea how big a mistake you've made, Ditchwater Sal?
How do you know, Matt?
I've been lucky on this movie because in the casting session we were going, who would be fantastic? And Michelle's name came up and I did the, yeah, I wish, rolling my eyes. Cut to 4 weeks later, I was sitting in a restaurant with her in San Francisco, trying to persuade her to do the film.
Please, all you wish, you shall not see the star. You will not receive it.
The burning golden heart of a storied piece is so much better than your frightened little heart. Even so, better than your heart at all.
You know what? I think everybody came on Michelle pretty fast. It was like Lamia, Michelle Pfeiffer, and maybe it's Witches of Eastwick that we're all channeling, or I'm not sure, but for whatever reason. And I think also Michelle, I don't know her personal life well, but I know that she's been spending a great deal of time as a mom.
Now the horse is coming around. He's looking at you. He's now rearing.
So she's not overexposed. And to see her again in a role where, you know, she's just ripping up the screen is really exciting.
Cut it. That was very good apart from let's get the Billy bit right at the beginning. Billy, pause, he's not there. Billy, and then he arrives.
Okay, once again, please.
In many ways, I think we've been really lucky because I think we're somewhat unusual in that we have actually built quite a lot of huge and elaborate sets. So that's been enough to keep us all very, very excited. So adding digital effects later is going to be a lovely bonus. As it is, even at this stage when we're nearly finished, there's so much cool footage for us all to squeal over. Well, Matthew doesn't squeal, obviously, he's very cool and laid back. I squeal a lot.
What I think I've enjoyed most about Matthews, I think his taste is incredibly accurate. He won't look at the monitor and let something pass unless he thinks it's right. And as an actor, that's essentially what you want from a director. You want them to be your mate behind the camera.
And I'm dead. And naked. Wonderful.
Matthew's new to visual effects, so my initial sort of meetings were very much guiding him through and introducing him to the tools that are available for the digital effects. And he had a very open mind about the approach that he would take, but a very sort of simplified approach.
The way I feel about CGI, only use CGI if you have to. I mean, if it's literally physically impossible to do it in camera or way too expensive to do it for real. The flying ship, it's pretty hard to get a 180-foot galleon flying around in the air, so we had to go CG. But, you know, the actual decking we built, you know, anything we could build, we did.
And Matthew was very keen on the flying vessel model, that we had a very sleek, almost powerboat feel to the shape of the hull.
It's actually a very beautiful ship. It was a great design. You know, I wanted to get away from those, when I say galleons, those pirate, sort of, when you say a pirate ship, this looks more like a speedboat hidden under wood.
We're basically building 90% of this top deck. We're not building the front because the stage is a little bit too short for us, which is fine because most of the work happens at the back end, and CG-wise we'll be able to add the bow section in post.
The thing that I, either as an author or as a scriptwriter, always feel when I visit a set is guilt. Because what happens is, it was something I made up. It was the work of a paragraph to create a flying pirate ship. If I'd thought of something different at the moment where I needed to get them out of trouble, it could have been a submarine. It could have been anything. It was a flying pirate ship because I thought, wouldn't that be fun? Now, it's 8 years later, and I'm walking onto Studio H.
And over here we are looking at a pirate ship on stage. Well, it looks to me like people are walking on it if you look up there.
30 or 40 craftsmen have been toiling for 8 weeks at a cost of something significantly upwards of $1 million to build full size,
Y tus
in the
trailers.
studio,
Visita mi
a
canal.
flying pirate ship. And I felt elated, I felt awed, but chiefly I just felt guilty. I wanted to walk around and apologize to each of them. Because I never meant for anybody to actually have to do any work. It was just something fun that I made up.
We have somebody here making the pirate ship. And making some wonderfully weathered looking wood.
So this is the, I say the wheel deck, which is the control centre, the flight deck. But as you can see from up here, there's an awful lot of issues with green screen, that we're so high up now on the stage because of the nature of the ship that we've got a floating green screen here which travels whenever we need it up and down the stage. So if we're ever looking up, we can cover most of those shots. You know, 20, 30 years ago it would have more or less been the same, but it probably would have been a painted sky backing.
It's really spectacular and very complicated, and that's one of the learning experiences that Matthew went through on this film. Shooting visual effects you don't get to do very often on independent budgets, and you certainly don't get to do it on that kind of scale. And that's pretty demanding way to just jump in the pool.
Couple of lightning marshals. They don't look like lightning marshals to me.
We had Bob De Niro for a couple weeks available to us, so Matthew not only had to jump in the pool, he had to jump in with one of the great actors of our time, and a limited time period to get it done.
Okay, cut! Okay, cut that guy.
Why I chose him was like asking someone, why do you choose to breathe? I think Bob is one of the top 3 living actors in the world, and he's been a hero of mine since I was a boy. And when we sat down in the first casting meeting and his name came up for Shakespeare, I just grinned and went, if only we could. And cut to 5 weeks later, I'm sitting in his office trying to explain Stardust to him, which was not easy and pretty intimidating as well.
3, 2, 1, crane. Action!
It was just a really wonderful, bizarre experience to work with him and to be fencing with him. I've seen The Mission, so I knew that Robert had fenced before. He trained independently of me because he was in New York prior to the start of the shooting. So I trained here, and then he came over a couple of days before we started filming, and we were put together for the first time, and it was a really good way to kind of get to know each other as well, because we were having to work out how we were going to work the sword fighting scenes. It was really good fun.
Yeah, that's fine. Play back and action.
Is right? I really felt like we were shooting a movie, you know, when there were pirates involved. It's such a classic motif and fantasy to escape into, and it was a little peculiar. Occasionally I'd sort of pinch myself and go, I'm being dragged across the floor of a pirate ship by Robert De Niro. You know, but really good fun.
I know what you are, Elaine.
This is what we call a CG takeover, where you start on the practical set, which was shot in Pinewood on the green screen stage. Everything below this line here is now computer generated. The stage is not big enough to fit the whole ship, and it was not big enough for us to do the camera to make it appear like the ship was flying off into the distance. So that's why you have to start off with the real thing on the set and then build everything else with CG.
I've always been a huge fan of Ricky's. The part wasn't in the first draft, but when De Niro got cast, I thought I've got to do one scene with De Niro doing what I've seen De Niro do great. And so I wanted to make sure I had the best of the best opposite each other, and I think it paid off in spades.
You've had your end of lightning about, haven't you? Oh, standing up where the air's too fresh.
Feeling particularly generous, telling I'll settle for 200. Yeah. Let me explain. In a negotiation is you changing your number as well.
I did. I just changed it to 200.
It was the one moment reading the script that I worried that this was the intersection between Stardust and the earlier films that Matthew had made or produced. You know, and suddenly we were going to be in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Fairies or whatever.
Didn't they? Yeah. Oh, yeah, you got the brains in. Brilliant.
What was great is watching Ricky Gervais and Robert De Niro having a ball and pushing their games up.
I've got to bring a little bit of the...
Do the script.
Have some of it in there.
Okay, yeah.
Him and Bob suddenly sort of had living, and I had to remind them that there was a thing called a script, because we suddenly went off on these tangents, which I knew I'd never be able to cut in.
Each one gets a little bit sharper with each scene, and Ricky will throw in another line, and De Niro will toss down an even cooler one just to match him, and suddenly it's really funny and sharp.
I have to take her out later. Dinner, eh? Buy your own pudding. I'm not made of any. Sorry.
Well, cold season approaches. At least now you have something to warm up your knees.
All the sets actually have been so beautifully designed. They've usually been a joy to work in, been really inspiring. But this one is a little eerie, of course.
What I love about this is the kind of detail which nobody's ever going to see in the film. You're never going to see it even playing the DVD. You're never going to get close up, and it's never going to linger long enough on all of these things for you to go, oh my God, in that little cherub is eviscerating things, except that they did it.
Unlike extensive dialogue scenes, when you're doing a fight scene, in the script it's not that much text. You can't describe what happens so specifically. So when I read it, you know, it's very hard to gauge what it's going to be and how it's going to work and exactly how serious the beats are. So it really was a discovery as we started filming.
I was able to do pretty much most of my fighting. You can see that it's me doing it. The difficulty, obviously, is it's one thing being able to do fighting, but it's another thing doing it with your eyes closed while you're slumped over and you can't see your opponent. You know, film, the more effort you put in, the more fantastic it looks.
There's not much room for subtlety, you know. If you're about to be killed by a witch, you know, there's no. I can't think of many different ways of dealing with that. It's pure terror and relief when it doesn't happen. So.
3, 2, 1, action!
It's a strange, wonderful, mixed kind of thing. It's an awful lot like having your child, who you've always adored and idolized, going off to school and then just getting back, not even getting back letters, just getting back occasional little photographs, and you're going, he's got a tattoo. And then you look at the next one and you go, oh my God, he's got a mohawk. And then you go, but the mohawk looks kind of cool, actually.
One most hopes as a writer is that an audience is entertained. It's about storytelling, and you just want to have told a good story.
It's a proper feel-good movie without being a romantic comedy. You just come out and you go, that was a fun 2 hours to spend. It's not going to change your life, it's not going to change the world, but it's entertaining.